This is going to be an interesting one. Thanks, everyone. Let's get to it.
If you stop reading the scriptures, what is the best way? How is the best way to get back into reading them?
Okay. Now, would you come down here and join me? And don't be nervous, okay? Which just made you more nervous.
You know, it's always good when a simple question necessitates you coming down in front of the entire audience.
I want you to come right over here. Okay,
we've got some audio for some people, not for others.
Do you see the end of this rug right here? That's a line.
Right, so just explain.
And over here, we're going to call this the devil's territory. All right? And on this side of the line, this is the Lord's territory. Where would you rather be? Over there or over here? Yeah, it's a lot better. All right. Now, I want you to turn your back on the devil's territory, okay? All right.
Well, these adults just
and every time you read your scriptures, you can take another step deeper into the safety of the Lord's territory over here. So come on with me. All right? All right. Every time you say a meaningful prayer, you can go deeper into the safety of the Lord's territory. Take another step. Feeling better over here? And you're not even interested in looking over here, are you? I don't want to see what's over there. All right. Now, can you think of other things that would help us go in this direction?
Going to church.
Hold the microphone up here.
Going to church.
Good. And not falling asleep or playing video games in church, right? Okay, so we take another step in here. That's good. Can you think of anything else? Do you have brothers and sisters? How about if you were really nice to them? Does that get you farther in here? Good. All right, come here. All right, now, question. What happens if you stop praying and you stop reading the scriptures?
So you see,
all of a sudden,
right there,
see, you're still way over here, but now you're turning this way.
He gets it.
Right?
He gets what's
You don't even
going
want to turn this way because I'm pushing you a little bit and you don't want to go. All right, now. And so you have another day where you don't read, you don't pray, and you're rotten to your brothers and sisters.
Teaching
now we're going this
sins
way.
of omission.
Okay?
If you don't do something, it's just
and now all of a
as
sudden
bad
you haven't done
something
those things for a week.
Essentially,
Are you liking this?
Up taking you the same
Do you like going in
direction.
this direction? Is it going to help you to remember to do these things?
No.
Yeah, think about the question. Are you liking going in this direction?
No.
So what is it that keeps you going in the other direction? When you read, when you pray. See, because you're going this direction now, because you're not doing that stuff.
Right, so you just did that bit where he's like, no, think about the question. So in the kid's defense, he's under a lot of pressure and he's very tearful, obviously. And he's technically correct. He was talking about moving towards the devil's territory, and he asked him, will that help him remember to read his scriptures or be nice to his siblings? And he said no, because moving towards the devil's territory won't help him remember those things. Now, this is particularly frustrating, particularly coming from Bednar, because he's the one that's taught previously that we shouldn't play the game of guess what's in my head when we're teaching other people. That's a bit ridiculous.
You haven't done anything horrible, terrible, really wrong. You just haven't done the right things that keep you way back over there. Do you like being this close to the line? Do you know what happens when you get this close to the line?
Just as uncomfortable as the rest of us.
A sin that's right here doesn't look that bad, does it? Right where my shoe is? So, oh, that's not that big of a deal. Okay, take just a little step over here. One more step. Just a little more. Okay. Now you try to get back over on the other side. Can you get over there?
No.
For an old man, I'm pretty strong, huh? You're not even trying very hard. Come on. All right, now.
Everyone else just looking on like, isn't this hilarious?
Remember what got you over here?
Manhandling a young child.
You came all the way from back over there to right at the edge of the line.
Explaining to him that
by
Satan's
just
got him.
not doing
and that he's now lost control
the things that
because
you know you should do.
Didn't do certain things.
And once you get over here, you're not in control anymore. Okay? All right, now step back over here. So your question was?
Right, okay. So Bednar here is saying that there's no way to leave the devil's territory because the kid is not in control. And he showed that by physically restraining him. There is two issues here. The first is it is completely antithetical to the teachings, and the atonement covers all, and we can always come back. That's exemplified by the quote from Uchtdorf. If I open that up for you. He said, "Our destiny is not determined by the number of times we stumble, but by the number of times we stand up, dust ourselves off, and stride forward." Now, that is very much not, once Satan's got you, he's got you, and there's no way out. Then the second thing is that if you teach this idea that once you've done something wrong, like this sin, that there is no way back, that leads to increasing cycles of shame. They notice it particularly with things like pornography, right? If you teach someone that using pornography is so horrendous that they're a bad person, that Satan's got them and they can't get out, they then feel terrible. They then use pornography to make themselves feel better. They then feel terrible. And it creates these cycles of shame and problematic thinking. Shame in general creates more shame and creates these downward cycles. So let's watch the rest of the video, shall we?
If you're not praying or reading, what's the best way to get started again, right? You just remember what it was like to be over there. Okay? Does that make sense?
Okay.
You don't want to be there. And you're in charge.
Kid, my goodness.
You're in control because of your agency of making sure that you don't get so close to the line that you'd make a mistake and step over. So you stay turned this way by choosing the right. And you go deeper over here to where it's safe by continuing to choose the right. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Tell me your name.
Bryson.
Bryson, thank you.
Bryson.
What a great question.
Okay, right. So, this poor little chap was just looking for study advice, right? Bednar used his simple question to enact a fear-mongering metaphor, which ultimately boiled down to, do the right things or you'll end up in Satan's clutches. Remember that every time you think, oh, should I read the scriptures or not? And then he personally enacts Satan's clutches by manhandling this child from behind with no apparent consent. It was really weird to see. And he held on to that boy for an uncomfortably long period of time. It was at least 30 seconds, if not more. But beyond all that, at no point did Bednar seem to notice the child's distress and check that he was okay. He just marched right on with his metaphor. And this way of teaching is wrong for two reasons. First, it's fear-based, and I'm about to show you something from Elder Uchtdorf, which says that that's not how we should do things.
Experts in marketing understand the power of fear and often employ it. This is why some advertisements seem to carry the implicit message that if you fail to buy their breakfast cereal or miss out on the newest video game or cell phone, we run the risk of living a miserable life, dying alone and unhappy. We smile at this and think we would never fall for such manipulation. But we sometimes do. Worse, we sometimes use similar methods to get others to do what we want. My message has two purposes today. The first is to urge us to contemplate and consider the extent to which we use fear to motivate others, including ourselves. The second is to suggest a better way.
And then, secondly, Elder Bednar himself has said this in the past about teaching.
So you just have to use the right pattern in order to achieve the desired outcome. The pattern I've emphasized often is that effective teaching is first listening and observing so you can discern, then and only then do you know what to say. If what we do is talk and tell without listening and observing and discerning, in essence, you're a teacher talking to yourself.
So, Elder Bednar clearly wasn't listening or observing. He wasn't listening to or observing the already frightened child. Otherwise, surely he would have discerned that the right thing to say was not a fear-based metaphor about how even if you're not doing bad things, it's still not enough. Because if you aren't doing all the right things you need to, then you're heading towards the devil's territory, where you'll be held captive and lose control. Right, that's enough of me talking. You've all watched through this with me. Chat's going crazy on the other side. Thank you for all those that have stuck around and watched. And it would be really nice now to get involved and read some of your comments and have a good chat with you all. Super chats are available if you want to support this channel even more. Maybe I need to buy some new equipment to sort this mess out, although I don't think it's my fault. Thank you all very much. Let's get to it. Let's have a look at your comments. So what are we saying? Someone said, I'm not sure any of those concepts were present in his example. Yeah, he hasn't really practiced as he preached there at all. Someone said they do things like this, regardless of the questions asked, they just want to make their own point. Yeah, exactly, Doug. It's very much a case of they have a point he wants to make. He wanted to make that point, and that kid's question provided an opportunity for him to do that. He had an opportunity to use this child, essentially, to show off what he wanted to. What else is going on in the chat? Let me zoom back up. Someone said 21st Century Saints are here. Hi, nice to see you. Someone said the crying meant the kid was getting the lesson right, and then a little vomity face. Yeah, unfortunately, that will have been understood by many in the room as the child feeling the spirit, which is quite frustrating, really. Someone said, this reminds me of a Sunday school teacher who once taught that if you repeatedly commit a sin, the atonement would eventually not cover it anymore. I don't remember reading that anywhere in the scriptures. That's a new one on me, certainly. But, you know, I could have missed that somewhere. Someone said this just caused several sessions for therapy for that kid. Yes, it probably did, Erica. It probably did. Charlie Jones, WTF is about right. For those in Utah, what the fetch? Someone says, so much for the atonement then. My thoughts exactly. Someone said, that's really, really inappropriate. Yeah. A lot of people online have been calling it abuse. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that it is abuse necessarily, but I think it's highly inappropriate and very uncomfortable. Oh yeah, Bednar also gives a talk in that same series of things that he did. This is inspired by Matthew Allen's comment, where he said he used the kid as an object. Elder Bednar has done a thing where he talks about people being agents to act for themselves. I'll put that in the description once I sort out all the description and the title and everything. He says that basically people have to be free to act for themselves. So the fact that he's then pushing and pulling a child around the stage, you know, kind of undermines that, really. That's a spiritual, emotional. Someone said, I didn't get to really take in what Elder Bednar was saying, despite your excellent commentary. Thank you very much, because this was so horrific. Yeah, it's one of those things that people don't really want out there. I actually managed to then track down, doing a bit of reverse searching, the full address that Elder Bednar did. This was for a series of books that he wrote through Deseret Book, and then they did like evenings on them, I think. So it's a quasi-official church event, but he's an apostle, nevertheless. Someone said, it's too bad Uchtdorf hasn't been able to continue his more nuanced take. That was more kind. Well, the thing is, Erica, he got kicked off the First Presidency for a reason. There's a reason he's no longer on the First Presidency, and it's because his views don't align with the Bednars, the Irings, the Oaks, and the Nelsons of this world. You will notice they're all very aligned in their kind of controlling attitude towards how members act and how these things go, whereas Uchtdorf has said things in defense of those that leave, in an understanding tone towards those that leave. He's just generally been very pleasant, and Gerrit W. Gong, I believe, is also of a similar ilk for the most part. So there are some slightly more pleasant members of the Quorum of the 12, certainly. Someone said, just the whole crossing the line imagery causes lots of shame problems. I've heard it so much from so many people in different ways, cliffs, fences, and so on. There's always a line to be afraid of. That's true. There's always this boundary or this invisible line that we're afraid of stepping over. It's like there's always this event horizon waiting to suck us in, and that with the moment we step over it, we lose control. Which, you know, it can be an apt way of looking at some things, but I wouldn't view it that way for sin. It's certainly not with a child. This loss of control for a child must be terrifying. Someone says Uchtdorf shows actual soul, can't have that. Someone said, I wouldn't be surprised if the boy's parents were super psyched or bring the event up over and over again to all the family and friends. Probably. This made the boy a young Mormon celebrity. The other thing is that you can actually see, I assume it's his mother, but the woman who was sat next to him, I believe she was wearing yellow. Go back and watch the video and you'll see her. She was sat there and she was smiling and beaming all the way through. She was loving it. You know, and this again, the fact that no one noticed this child's very upset. At no point did anyone go, maybe he shouldn't be doing this, maybe, you know, we'll put an end to this. You know, he built up the courage to ask a question, and that's enough. Let's not have him paraded around, which he's clearly very uncomfortable with. Because in Bednar's defense, which is not a sentence I thought I'd be saying tonight, the kid started crying the moment he got onto the floor. Bednar's defense ceases when we realise that he should have seen that and gone, well, maybe this isn't a good idea. Someone said, find the kid and do a Where Are They Now video. If anyone can find this individual, I would absolutely love to speak with them. I would love to hear their experience and how they found it. Someone said, Bednar's wife looks like she's emotionally been hit by a steamroller. I've noticed she doesn't always look the most comfortable. I'll give you that. I can't really infer anything onto their relationship from that. But if it did turn out that there was something going on there, I'd be the first one to start a #FreeSisterBednar campaign, because, you know, anything like that isn't acceptable. Someone says, do we know what year the video was? I can put that in the description. I want to say it's 2007. That's the number that's coming to my head, but I could be completely off base. Someone says, who's going to question Bednar when he's doing this? He has the power, he has the cameras, he has a loyal audience around him. He could physically beat a kid and wouldn't be stopped. I would hope that's not the case. I would hope that he wouldn't get away with physical violence towards a child, but the kind of mob effect of mob bystander effect they talk about, don't they? When someone's in trouble and everyone thinks someone else will do it, it's collective responsibility or something like that, and so no one acts to help another because they see that someone else will deal with it. That could also be the case in this sort of sense, where everyone sees that the child's uncomfortable, but no one wants to be the one to step up and do something about it. And that's a fair point. Someone said, how is the behavior manipulation from leadership any different than Joseph Smith's manipulation of teenagers? I mean, it's a fair point. If we were to start to call out this sort of behavior, we inevitably end up calling out the prophet. I've spoken about this in videos before. We inevitably call out the prophet if we call out some of these manipulative behaviors. Someone says, I doubt TBMs even noticed the distressed kid. They thought it was so cool being tagged by an apostle. Yeah, the starstruck nature of things probably took over, if I'm honest. Sometimes physical violence isn't as bad as emotional violence. Yeah, that's a fair point. And this kid certainly... Well, I mean, I'm not sure I call it emotional violence. I mean, emotional abuse, sure. But this kid certainly emotionally will have suffered from this, I would imagine. If not directly from what Bednar did, but from the fear instilled in this idea that if he crosses the line, Satan's got him. I think this sort of boogeyman idea that Satan's waiting to get us generally isn't the most healthy. Someone said, I'm sure most of the people thought the kid was feeling the spirit. Yeah, I said that at the beginning. That could be very much the case as to why a lot of people thought this was fine. Yeah, the emotional damage of putting stuff in a young developing mind. Yeah, that's that's a fair point that, you know, these kids are developing. It goes back to like Joy D. Jones's talk, teaching children that they are free to choose everlasting life or eternal death. Like, who's teaching children that? Who's teaching children that binary? Especially young children that she deals with, being the primary president. Why is that being done? But that hug was uncomfortable, deeply uncomfortable. Okay, any other questions for me? Any other points or comments regarding this video? How is this different than an evangelical conference Mormons love to rag on so much? I don't actually know that much about evangelicalism. Particularly, the few things I do know is about those super churches, right? That look a bit like the conference center, if I'm honest, with thousands of people in a room. Is it evangelicals that speak in tongues a lot? I'm not sure. But how is it any different? It might not be. And I wouldn't seek to defend it. I wouldn't seek to have an appeal to popularity be present by saying, well, the evangelicals do it too. And neither would I want to defend the evangelicals' behavior if it's problematic just because that behavior is also present in Mormonism. Someone says, as a child, I was very much like this young boy. I would have been traumatized. Yeah, I completely sympathize with that. I understand that. Doug Visance just said, we had a kid in a testimony today say that every word President Nelson speaks is God's words, and well, that's what they're taught. You've seen my video, and if not, I'll link it above my head for those that are rewatching, and it'll be in the description as well. My video where Russell M. Nelson sits down and says to children, I speak for God, and God wouldn't let me lead you astray. So that kid is correct. He's been taught, well, he's correct in terms of he's parroting what he's been taught. Someone said maybe this is one of the reasons why apostles have the people ask scripted questions. Yeah, maybe, because otherwise they'd go completely off the rails and do this to a kid. Someone said, not sure referencing Satan as a real person to a child is a good idea, especially reinforcing that with the physical presence of a man giving you a bear hug from behind. Absolutely. I don't think that's healthy at all. Someone said, I'm enjoying a moment of imagining that when Bednar asked if he answered the question, the boy answered no and let go of me. Well, because he didn't answer his question. The young lad was just after some advice on how to remember to study the scriptures. He wanted, just put post-it notes around your room. He wanted, set a time every day. He wanted, start by reading a verse and then a little bit more and then a little bit more. That's what he was after. He wasn't after being hauled around the room for a few minutes and paraded and embarrassed and publicly shamed, because he was made to imagine himself doing bad things as he was walked around in front of cameras and lights and people. And that's not good. Someone says, yeah, someone said a couple of things. He's only in